no woman wants to have sex with a jerk. So if you're a man listening to this and you have a partner who is going through menopause and she's irritable or moody or something's going on and you are not being supportive of that, she's not having sex with you. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Eversio Experience. I am your host, Brandi Garden, and today's episode feels especially personal and powerful. We are diving into functional mushrooms and menopause, something you in our Eversio community have asked for, I'm going to say over a year now. We have been getting the requests about mushrooms and menopause. So today we're going to talk about how these ancient allies can guide us through one of the most transformative times in a woman's life.
Absolutely. I'm Dr. Desiree Caruso. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor. I'm the co-host. Brandi, I really love that you called it transformative because that's what it really is. And when we look at it from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, menopause is also known as the second spring, and it's a rebirth, not a decline. It's also known as the age of wisdom in traditional Chinese medicine. And I think there's a lot of power in that statement. And functional mushrooms are revered in both TCM as well as emerging research and as powerful allies for this passage.
Yes. Did you hear that, ladies? Not a decline, which is, I think, this is like you're on the downhill to death. It's so not true. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Menopause is so often framed as an ending, but it's really a transition. And I mean, I'm living it right now. I will be 49 in a couple of weeks. I'm right in that age and stage where I am just moving from perimenopause into menopause. And I have a teenage daughter who's on the exact opposite end, 14 years old. And I think it's so interesting that Mother Nature, often with mothers and daughters, you know, I'm going through exactly the reverse of what she's going through, which could be both cruel and profound at the same time. But it is just a transition. And to me, for me, it does mark the age of wisdom, just like you said. Physiologically, the body is just moving into this new state of equilibrium. And we know it's estrogen and progesterone and testosterone levels are dropping. That's it. And that shift can bring a lot for women. And we see it. We see it in our friends. We see it in our colleagues. The physical symptoms are a lot. The hot flashes, the night sweats. And there's a lot of fear around like what is happening to me when I start to melt like that. And I have yet to experience a hot flash, but we have many friends who melt in front of us and we just see embarrassment and fear around it because you don't know what's happening. So let's just get it straight. That hot flash is just happening because your brain's temperature control center, the hypothalamus, is overreacting. It's mistakenly sensing that the body's too hot due to those dropping estrogen levels, particularly during menopause. And that just causes a sudden sweating or flushing of the skin, sometimes a rapid heartbeat, because the body is just making this exaggerated attempt to cool down when it doesn't actually need to. And that is scary. But once you know what's happening, the science brings the power. Women have irregular periods, vaginal dryness, sleep disturbances are a big one, weight gain, slower metabolism, big, joint and muscle aches. I experience that. Some women have hair thinning or dryness. And then the emotional or cognitive symptoms, mood swings, depression or just low mood, memory lapses or brain fog, and then loss of libido. So it's a long list of things people will talk about. Often it's not all of those, hopefully, but women are going to experience one or some of those things at this time, and it's very normal.
And also there are shifts in metabolism too, as well as cardiovascular function. There's also bone density.
Yes.
So it can be a lot and it can be overwhelming for a lot of women during this transition. And I think the biggest thing, you know, that I hear from patients who are going through this transition is that they feel like they're a stranger in their own body. Their body is foreign to them and they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And conventional medicine often meets it with a prescription pad. I'll prescribe you this, I'll prescribe you that. And that can be helpful. And that can be something that, you know, maybe is right for you. But I think there is a lot of growing interest in adaptogenic, neuroprotective, and anti-inflammatory supports from things like functional mushrooms, just because of all the benefits that they can have. So if we look at it from a TCM perspective, so traditional Chinese medicine, menopause is viewed as a decline in kidney yin. And the kidney system in TCM is what governs reproductive health as well as brain function and longevity. So when this kidney yin wanes, we see dryness, we see heat, restlessness, things like insomnia, irritability, and dryness in the skin and mucosa. And so this could be a potential reason for, why women are experiencing these changes because of an imbalance from the organs from a TCM perspective. But then we look at it too. Our bodies are going from producing, the ovaries are producing hormones to now our adrenal system is taxed because when we enter into menopause, our adrenals are taking over some of that hormone production. So that's where, the cortisol piece is really big and the stress piece and all of that. But, when we look at it from this TCM perspective, the shift in kidney yin, this kind of explains a lot of symptoms for a lot of women at this time.
It maps so beautifully with like dryness, heat, restlessness. We had to, like, those three words describe so much, and it maps so beautifully to the Western clinical symptoms we see. And functional mushrooms, many of which nourish kidney essence when we look at that, or they support Shen, which we know as the spirit, can help to restore that internal balance that's going on. But of course, we know as we begin to talk today, factors like nutrition and mindfulness, meditation, regular exercise, good sleep hygiene, emotional resilience, they can't be ignored at any stage of life. So we're going to talk to you about medicinal mushrooms today, but we're well aware that medicinal mushrooms alone won't be enough to find that balance back.
So I think it's good for us to lay the groundwork here in terms of terminology, because we're going to throw out a lot of terms like we've talked about: adaptogenic, nootropic, things like that. So when we're talking about functional mushrooms, what we mean by that is these are mushrooms with adaptogenic properties, nootropic properties, and immunomodulating effects. So supporting the immune system, adaptogenic, helping our body physiologically deal with stress, supporting our brain. So they include functional mushrooms like Maitake, Reishi, Cordyceps, lion's mane, Tremella, and each of them all have their own unique benefits for women, helping to navigate perimenopause, menopause, and in postmenopause. But that's essentially what we're talking about when we say functional mushrooms. It's not one mushroom does this one function. Mushrooms are true modulators in that they have a wide variety of benefits, but there are larger benefits and secondary benefits and even tertiary benefits from functional mushrooms because they are modulators. They are nature's medicines, and they use the synergy of all of the compounds found within it that are helping it.
Yeah, I love those 5 you just talked about. I think we should put those 5 together in a blend.
That sounds like a great idea.
Maybe we'll talk about that later in the episode. But I love that you're not talking about one. And we know that they work better together. And I always say mushrooms are symbols of interconnectedness. And that's not just connectedness with nature and with us, but with each other as well. And we know that they are better together. And we know that they've been used for centuries, if not longer, in traditional Chinese medicine. But I love that now we're seeing real clinical research back their effects, especially, like you said, on the nervous system, which we know is so important, immune regulation, and for hormonal balance. And when you talk about them acting as adaptogens, I just see that being so connected to this being endocrine modulators. We're talking about hormones here and how they support natural hormone production and help to regulate that HPA axis you talked about, which is what governs the release of many hormones, including estrogen and progesterone. So mushrooms aren't going to override your endocrine system, but they can help to nudge it back into harmony. And I love to just, I think of mushrooms as these little wisdom allies on a good day. And in this age of wisdom, restoring balance to your body's inner rhythms is the name of the game. It's this sacred midlife metamorphosis. And I'm excited to dive in. So let's talk about Maitake, was the first mushroom you mentioned. Doesn't get enough of the spotlight. We've been talking about it a lot lately, and you're going to find out why, because we've been super nerdy at Eversio HQ around Maitake and all of the recent research lately. But maybe what I love most about Maitake is that people refer to it as the dancing mushroom, because I love to dance. It's just, Maitake is such a gem. It is known as the dancing mushroom because people were so happy when they found it in the forest that they would literally do a happy dance around it. So tell us more about Maitake.
That's so cute. So Maitake contains beta glucans that help to modulate the immune system. So helping the immune system, whether it's over or under functioning, that's where that modulation piece comes in. And then there's this specific compound called diffraction, which has shown to have anti-cancer properties. And that's really big, especially in Asian literature. But what's especially relevant here for Maitake is its blood sugar regulating effect, because that really is a big piece for women as they're transitioning into perimenopause and menopause, and making sure that cortisol is regulated as well as insulin, their blood sugar, because that's the foundation for our hormones. And that can also be an underlying factor as well for some of the more cognitive or mood related symptoms that women are experiencing, with the shortness or feeling irritable, moodiness, anxiety. That could potentially be something that's related to blood sugar and not actually them, right? It's their physiology. So if we look at research, I really like this 2010 study. So it was a clinical trial published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, and they found that a combination of Maitake and SX fraction improved insulin sensitivity in women with polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. And now you might be thinking, okay, but PCOS and perimenopause, they're different. How is this relevant? Well, this is a condition that has overlapping hormonal imbalances that are seen in perimenopause, because in PCOS, a big feature of this imbalance or this condition is that it's this blood sugar piece, right? This insulin sensitivity. And oftentimes, especially in naturopathic medicine, when we're correcting a woman's insulin sensitivity, that's when the other things can now align for them in terms of their clinical picture and how they're presenting symptomatically. And so in perimenopause as well, this is something where I mentioned in perimenopause and menopause, our body is going from producing hormones from our reproductive organs, like our ovaries, to now those are, essentially transitioning out and they're retiring. And now our adrenals are having to pick up the slack. And so sometimes this is when, you can think of it sputtering, right? Like a car running out of gas, where you have a little bit of gas and then you don't, and then you have a little bit more, and it's like all over the place. I like to use that sputtering analogy. And that's where our adrenals are now having to kick it up a notch and try to maintain this plateau, or this easy transition with the change in hormones. But the adrenals are also responsible as well for producing cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and it's involved in our blood sugar pathway. So when cortisol is high, that can really wreak havoc on our blood sugar and regulating that. So I like to mention this study just because, it is relevant for women in perimenopause and menopause, that making sure that we are nourishing our bodies and supporting our bodies for optimal blood sugar balance, so that we can lay a strong foundation for hormones during this time.
Okay, so I'm going to paraphrase, because I have a lot of girlfriends that are listening to that, and I just want to clarify. So you're saying that Maitake can help women dealing with the metabolic weight gain and insulin resistance that come with this shift.
Absolutely. Yes, that's exactly it. And it can also help to support the spleen and liver. And from a TCM perspective, the spleen and liver are really key for digestion, detox as well as mood stability. We think of liver, like the emotion that's related to the liver in traditional Chinese medicine is anger. And a lot of menopausal or perimenopausal women often will report and say, I am so irritable, I am so angry. And so, if we look at it from that aspect as well, it's helping to correct it.
Yeah, so we need more Maitake, so we're going to get that for you, gang. In the meantime, Maitake's delicious, and you can get it at most markets, and I love to throw it in my air fryer. We actually made some mushroom Wellington with it. You can put it in so many recipes instead of meat. It's delicious. But we are working with the Maitake, so stay tuned. Okay, let's jump to Reishi, the mushroom of immortality. My go-to when I'm feeling edgy or ungrounded, which honestly isn't often. I think due to my massive amounts of meditation, I don't get ungrounded a lot, but it does happen. It happened yesterday for me, and Dr. Des had to do a little acupuncture for me and bring me back. And thank you for holding that space. And I did take Reishi yesterday morning because there's a lot going on for me right now, and I'm having to be really intentional about getting grounded again. And I just think it's got that cosmic hug vibe to it. And I know that when we've talked about the research in the past that Reishi supports progesterone levels, which calms the stress response and improves adrenal health. So talk to us about Reishi.
I love that description that you gave of Reishi. So Reishi is considered a Shen tonic in TCM. And remember, Shen is another word for spirit. So it's really helping to tonify the spirit. And so it can help to nourish the heart, the liver, and the kidney systems. And clinically, it also has anxiolytic, sedative, and cortisol lowering properties. So if you hear sedative, no, it's not a sedative that if you take it, it's going to knock you out like a prescription, but it has sedative like properties in that it can be really soothing and
Herbal yoga.
Herbal yoga, bringing you down a notch or two. And that anxiolytic term just essentially means that it's helping with that anxiety piece just to bring you into a calm state. And then it's cortisol lowering properties. So there was this 2013 study in phytotherapy research that found that reishi extracts significantly reduced fatigue and improved quality of life in breast cancer patients. And fatigue and mood issues are two of the most common complaints that I hear in my menopausal patients. And so, if we look at research on reishi, it's really helping with fatigue in the sense of you're having a really good night's rest because it's decreasing the amount of time it takes to fall asleep. They found that in research. It can increase the length of time that you are asleep. And for some women, that is a big piece for them, is that they're constantly waking up. So if they can sleep longer, they can really rest and feel rested and energized. And, just the quality of sleep from an HRV perspective, right? Heart rate variability. I know we've tracked that, and a lot of people in our community have said that. And then from a cortisol lowering perspective, reishi really works on the HPA axis, so the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And that's the axis that is involved in cortisol, which is our stress hormone. So it's helping to modulate that. Now, it doesn't mean that you take it totally diminishes cortisol. What it's doing is it's bringing it back into a balanced state physiologically for what's good for you. I think reishi, to be honest, is one of the unsung heroes for women in menopause because not only is it bringing your mood down to a place of, oh, I'm not irritable, I'm not angry, I can be calm and feel safe within my body, I think is the biggest thing. But then also the stress, of feeling like you're unfamiliar and you're a stranger in your body, and then how it can also support the HP axis as well as supporting hormones to bring it back into balance.
Absolutely. I think as a humanity, male or female, we could all use help with building emotional resilience. But it's hard to do it when you're out of balance, when you're already in a heightened state. So I love that reishi is something that can bring us to a place where we can do the work we need to do to start building that resilience. And from a traditional Chinese medicine lens, it anchors the spirit during yin deficiency, right?
Yeah, so when yin is deficient, that's when the spirit can become restless. So reishi can help to calm the mind, supporting deep sleep, like I mentioned, and can cool internal heat. So that can make it ideal for those women with night sweats or insomnia.
Yes, absolutely. And I think when we look at it from an herbal perspective, so a more Western way to look at things, it's the triterpenes and the polysaccharides
Yes.
that we talk about all the time that are really doing the work. And I love the research that looks at the inflammation piece with reishi. And I just think of somebody who's dealt with a lot of inflammation. When I take reishi, I am really thinking about how those triterpenes and polysaccharides are going in to reduce inflammation. And I know that that helps to support hormone receptor sensitivity when there's not a lot of inflammation around there. So no doubt reishi is a heavy hitter. So now we've got Maitake and reishi together. We're starting to build a beautiful blend here. Let's go to cordyceps mushrooms, which for too long have been known as the mushroom for men. We can talk about them as the energy and essence restorer, but to me, cordyceps feels like rocket fuel in the best way. Yeah. It's that clarity, the drive, the stamina. I actually don't take it every single day because I'm sensitive to it, but I love it in our 3 mushroom blend in my matcha in the morning or in a smoothie. So yeah, let's go. Talk to us about cordyceps.
Cordyceps tonifies the kidney yang in TCM, so that can help to support energy, libido, which we've talked about fairly extensively, lung function, we've also talked about that, and even endocrine resilience. There was this 2020 double-blind study in the Journal of Dietary Supplements, and it found that Cordyceps militaris supplementation in older adults improved aerobic capacity as well as fatigue markers in just 6 weeks. So that's
Wow.
really big for menopausal women that are struggling with chronic exhaustion. That's another thing that I hear in clinical practice all the time is women are saying, I am just so tired, like I need to peel myself off the couch.
Yeah.
I just don't have the energy that I had before. And cordyceps, I would say, is really a functional mushroom or a supplement that you can lean on as a crutch when you are really needing some support. And I think the timing of cordyceps is really imperative. So if you're taking it in the morning and you find that you have no energy in the morning, pairing that with reishi at night and then cordyceps in the morning, I think is really like a double whammy,
Yeah.
in the sense of you're really supporting your adrenals because they're both adaptogens, but
Yeah.
then it's really also helping with the HPA axis and then giving you that energy in the morning that's more stable. So I use this with patients who have chronic fatigue syndrome, as well as perimenopause and menopause, just because they really need a fire starter
Yeah.
to help them with that energy. Because when you're feeling more energized and you have that little bit more energy, then you're able to do the other things, the other
Yes.
lifestyle factors, and it's really just a kickstart into that cycle for you.
Yeah. I love the fungi fire starter. I love that. And I think of it with like reproductive vitality, which is not something we think of in menopause, where we're not looking to be reproductive, but it feels good to feel that way. So, and I know for when I think, so my husband Craig loves cordyceps. And when he looks at the research, he's looking at how it can support testosterone production. And then I think, well, what's happening then when I consume that? And a little testosterone actually feels good for us, especially during this time, because this drops during menopause. And that can affect your libido and it can affect your muscle tone. So there's a little bit of research showing that we are able to affect some testosterone there. And we know that cordyceps can help to stimulate some estrogen and support progesterone as well indirectly by modulating the adrenal and ovarian function that's there. So I think we always talk about cordyceps. It boosts ATP, adenosine triphosphate production, which supports energy. And that's where we're getting this reproductive vitality. That's where it's the fungi fire starter.
Yeah, totally. And I think another piece that's important to mention is the libido piece, because I think for a lot of women during this time as they're transitioning, that is also a big piece that can affect their relationship, and it can be added stress for them during this time. So a little bit of libido support has been really helpful that I've seen in clinical practice and the women that I have spoken to. And the thing too is that cordyceps is safe to use long term, especially in women with adrenal burnout or adrenal fatigue, or even a sluggish thyroid function because of some of the research there on how it can support thyroid. But it's not something that you need to take a break from, although if you find that you feel called to do that, it's a really good opportunity for you to notice how you're
The
feeling.
difference.
I know
You notice when you go without.
Oh my gosh, you and I have totally done that a couple
Yeah.
times. And I'm like, why am I so tired? I'm like, okay, well, yeah, there's added stress, but I don't have cordyceps anymore. And
Yeah.
I jumped up to a new level of normal with energy, and it was awesome.
Yeah,
So,
when we sell out, when our inventory goes low, we all start to appreciate the ones that are stocked out. We're working really hard to keep them all stocked in all the time, but it is probably some, universal assignment to us to appreciate what we don't have. And we can't leave the topic of libido and menopause without me saying that it's not just libido itself. It's not just physiological for women. It is also an emotional piece. No woman wants to have sex with a jerk. So if you're a man listening to this and you have a partner who is going through menopause and she's irritable or moody or something's going on and you are not being supportive of that, she's not having sex with you. So it has to be a full package. Yes, having cordyceps on board, having this regulation go on can help to bring the libido back physiologically, but it also helps to have an emotionally supportive partner because that's attractive. And so much of libido to me happens in the mind, not just in the body. So be a good partner and you will be more attractive and that libido can be put to good use.
there you go. You had to say it.
I had to say it. It's a good time to support your partner in this phase. Okay, lion's mane, my favorite. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Always has been my favorite. Probably always will be my favorite. I think of this as the nerve regenerator. And let's just talk about brain fog. It's real and I have lived it and it can be very scary. And I think a lot of women make this, the hot flashes are physically uncomfortable, but the brain fog is embarrassing and it's frustrating and it is very scary for so many women. So talk to us about lion's mane in this stage.
Yeah, it is very scary and it also can be really common. So if you're hearing this and this is something that you really struggle with, know that you're not alone and there are a lot of other women who are experiencing this. So lion's mane is the superstar here, I think, with brain health and brain fog. And lion's mane can help to stimulate nerve growth factor or NGF, which helps to support neuroplasticity, memory, as well as cognition. There was this 2009 Japanese study that was published in Phytotherapy Researched, and it showed that lion's mane improved mild cognitive impairment in older adults after 16 weeks of use. And interestingly, benefits declined after stopping supplementation. So it indicated that it is best used consistently.
Yes, you can't just take it and think, and this was me. I thought I saw my brain on an MRI. I knew I needed to repair it. I thought I'll take lion's mane for a few months. I did read this very specific study. This was a game changer study for me. 16 weeks. I'm like, yeah, 4 months. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be all fixed up. No, the neurogenic rate is something that never ends and will be continuing until the day you die. And we want to keep that rate high throughout our lifetime if we want to have a long health span. So I love that this study really proved to people that they work best with prolonged use. You need to be consistent. And that's why I take lion's mane every single day, and I always will. And good quality lion's mane. We know in that research it has to be a dual extract. We know we need to get those secondary metabolites out because they are what are passing the blood-brain barrier. And when it comes to hormonal support, while lion's mane is not directly estrogenic, we know that it supports neuroendocrine function, which influences hormone cycles. So it helps with cognitive fog or mood swings or anxiety, which are often caused because of estrogen and progesterone fluctuations. And I remember reading a study somewhere along the way showing that lion's mane can ease perimenopausal depression, is what they called it. And it was by improving BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor levels, and that affected serotonin balance. So there's so much cool stuff going on with lion's mane. Talk to us about what's happening with lion's mane and TCM.
So in TCM, lion's mane is nourishing the spleen and the heart, which is supporting digestion, and calming Shen, which is the spirit. So having a calm spirit. It's also a great mushroom for emotional resilience and clarity. And it can even support digestive motility, which slows down with estrogen loss. And I think one of the other things too, in terms of how lion's mane is supportive of brain fog is that it's also helping with neuroinflammation, because as estrogen levels are dropping, like estrogen is protective for us. It's neuroprotective. And when these levels drop, that's when our body really has to adjust to a different level of inflammation. And, taking something like lion's mane can help to manage that. And one thing too that I want to touch on is when we talk about using it consistently, because that's a sticking point for a lot of people, is like, so that means that it's not just fixed, like I need to consistently take it. And it's the same with exercise. You don't just exercise once for the week and then I'm done. You don't just eat once and then you're done for the week. You have to eat healthy consistently. That's just lifestyle and part of nourishing our body, mind, and soul. And the fact that lion's mane is nourishing the spleen, the heart, supporting that joy, calming the shen. It's really coming at it from a multi-dimensional place.
Absolutely. And I noticed, because I was only taking lion's mane for so long in the beginning of my mushroom wellness journey, it was amazing for my gut. And we know it's a great prebiotic, and we know, that's where the second brain is living. So it's definitely my fave. Okay, so now we have Maitake, Reishi, Cordyceps, lion's mane. The fifth mushroom on your list was Tremella. And Tremella gets talked about. It's the yin restorer out there in traditional Chinese medicine. Such a goddess mushroom. We have retired our Tremella capsules at this point. That product was called Everglow now, in a bright pink bottle, and it was very goddess-like. But I think we've got to bring Tremella back, because it is that radiant, juicy, hydrating mushroom that's so different. It's a jelly fungus, so different than the other mushrooms. So tell us about Tremella and TCM.
So Tremella is a pure yin tonic in TCM. It's helping to moisten dryness, nourishing the lungs and stomach, and really beautifies the skin. And we know that in nature, Tremella is gelatinous and it wants to absorb moisture. So that's where it's really helping to moisten and helping with dryness. So there was this 2022 in vitro study in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences, and it found that Tremella polysaccharides improved collagen synthesis and inhibited specific enzymes that break down skin structure. So this is perfect for dry skin, vaginal dryness, and as even elasticity loss in perimenopause as well as menopause. I know that's a big sticking point for women, is that not only internally they might feel differently, but physically they're noticing a change in their skin, and it's this change in elasticity and dryness, and they find that their skin is feeling dull. And so this can be a point to support by nourishing and moistening the skin.
Yeah, and so many women will try to attack that from the outside. We have so many women that are, they'll just go after Botox and fillers and, all kinds of peels and doing all of this to try to get the moisture back. But you can't just be the outside. We have a great episode about skin with our friend Joy McCarthy you can go back and listen to. But Tremella's the one where if you are nourishing from the inside as well as doing whatever works and makes sense for you on the outside, you're going to have better effects every time. And I love that with Tremella, it also supports the gut microbiome, and we see research on that. There's emerging data showing that it enhances short chain fatty acid production in the gut, and you talk extensively about that in our gut health episode. And so cool how what's happening when we consume mushrooms and the beta glucans are bioavailable to us because they're an extract, and then what's happening when our body's using those beta glucans, and as the breakdown happens, we're getting these short chain fatty acids in there, and this is really nourishing for the gut microbiome, which we know is the center of so much goodness at not just this stage but all stages. Okay, so 5 mushrooms, there we go. We should make a blend.
We should make a 5 mushroom blend.
Yeah, maybe. Tell people how they're going to use this. How will women start using these 5 mushrooms safely?
Well, the biggest thing is that you need to start with organic fruiting body extracts, avoiding mycelium on grain when possible, because you're getting grain in there, and that's taking up room in the mushroom product from potential medicinal compounds that you could be getting from a fruiting body extract. The other thing too that I wanted to mention is if you're somebody who's listened to this episode and you've thought, well, I have all of these things, I have all of these symptoms, I could probably use all of them. Well, our new product, 5 mushroom blend, will have all 5 of these mushrooms. But if you wanted to start with a capsule product or start in one particular area, the biggest recommendation that we always say is start with your area of greatest need, because oftentimes that greatest need is going to be a catalyst and have a domino effect on some of the other areas.
Absolutely.
But anyways, so our new 5 mushroom blend will have these 5 mushrooms that we talked about, and typical doses of these mushrooms. I mean, research is examining around 3,000 milligrams and up, and it depends on the study that they're examining. And, we made sure that we formulated our 5 mushroom blend so that it's consistent with research, but also it's really targeting these specific symptoms for women who are perimenopausal or menopausal, or if you're not somebody who's perimenopausal and menopausal, it can help to support your optimal hormones, whether you are a man or a woman. It's not just for women, but we highlight this because this is probably the most requested podcast episode topic is for perimenopause and menopause. So this is for you if you asked for it or hoped it would happen. This is for you.
Here it is. So there's your announcement. 5 mushroom blend is coming. We're hoping the end of August 2025 is the projected launch date for 5 mushroom blend. And absolutely, it is for men and women, but it's really the hormone balancing blend. And I think we talk about it for perimenopause and menopause because women are just experiencing this shift so differently than men. Men's hormones, they're just on a whole other playing field and not experiencing such a drastic change as they don't have to shift from being having this estrogen and progesterone slam down on us. So it's a blend for everyone, but definitely this is the answer to all of those questions we've had from women in this stage of life who are really suffering and don't need to be. And I think if you want to start right now before that blend comes out, I love putting the 3 mushroom blend in my matcha in the morning. I find that so there's L-theanine in the matcha. There's a little bit of caffeine in there, but not too much, which too much caffeine at this stage can be troublesome for women. And then just taking reishi in the evening is a great place to start. And then when we get this blend going, watch out. We're going to share so much more about the goodness coming from it. Yeah. So I think we end with mushrooms aren't just supplements. They are these sacred allies. They invite us to slow down and to listen to our bodies and to reconnect with the rhythms of nature, how they always have. We talked a lot about traditional Chinese medicine. This is thousands of years old, and we're just starting to speak the language here. So Dr. Des, thank you so much for bringing us on board with some new vocabulary today. Yin deficiency. It's just fun to say, but thank you for that.
And that's what menopause is all about, right? It's this deep shift from doing to being. And from TCM to Western science, mushrooms can hold keys to vitality and beauty and emotional peace in this phase of life. It really is the age of wisdom because you've accumulated so much life experience and knowledge, and that's part of the community piece of passing it on to the next generations. And it's really a time when we can support women because how beautiful and amazing it is to experience this transition in life.
You made it. Yeah, you made it. You're not broken. You are becoming. And mushrooms are here to support that second spring, we call it. It's not the end of a chapter. It is a powerful initiation into a new stage of wisdom and vitality. And with natural support, you can navigate this transition with strength and grace and confidence. And we are right here going through it with you. So we have linked our mushroom wellness quiz in the show notes. If you haven't done our quiz before, it's a great place to go and get started. Like Dr. Des said, starting with your greatest need is a good way to begin a mushroom wellness journey. So go take the quiz if you haven't yet. We've also linked a few freebie downloads in the show notes here that we think that you will love, including some great recipes that you can try. All of the recipes on our website are created by women with whole hearts that are using ingredients that are often dairy-free and gluten-free and sugar-free and so nourishing, and they all include mushrooms. And one of the people creating the recipes has a background in traditional Chinese medicine, and you'll see that in the recipes that they're often supportive of different phases and times and seasons, and I love that about them. So go check out the free recipes that are there, and there's a beautiful free gut health guide there as well. So don't miss the show notes. There's some real treasures there for you.
Totally. And if you are ready to go a little bit deeper, you can go back and check out episode 3, where we talk all about specific hormones and how medicinal mushroom research has been shown to be supportive as mycotherapy when your hormones are out of balance. So definitely check out episode 3 if you feel like you're craving a little bit more of the nerdiness.
Yeah. And last but not least, in case you missed it, we launched my new book on July 17th. And it is a book about the most important things I have discovered about the ability we all have to heal ourselves. So the book is called Healing Your Body, Mind, and Soul. And I have never been so excited about something that I've created before. I can't wait for you to get your hands on it, because I know it's exactly what you need to grow and evolve into the person you already feel yourself becoming. So you can go to eversiowellness.com/pages/Brandi, Brandi -garden right now. And I promise you will learn how to find healing and wholeness without pharmaceuticals, and this will change your life. We are sending you love and light always. Be well, everyone.